Captain Ethan Brooks banked his fighter jet hard to the left, dodging a hail of laser fire from the enemy ships. The Zeridian Empire's forces were relentless, and Ethan's squadron was taking heavy losses. As he swooped in for another pass, he spotted a young Zeridian child, no more than 6 years old, cowering behind a pile of debris. The child's eyes locked onto Ethan's, and for a moment, they shared a desperate glance. Ethan's wingman, Lieutenant Lucas Pierce, shouted over the comms, "Ethan, we've got multiple hostiles closing in. Break off now." But Ethan hesitated, his gaze still fixed on the child. A blast rocked the ground mere feet away, sending shrapnel flying everywhere. Without thinking, Ethan threw himself over the child, shielding her from the worst of the impact. The child's mother, Vexa, watched in horror from a nearby rooftop. She was a towering figure, her skin a deep iridescent blue, and her eyes burned with a fierce maternal instinct. She saw Ethan's selfless act, and her world shifted in an instant. This human, this stranger, had just saved her child's life. As the battle raged on, Ethan scrambled to his feet, the child still clutched in his arms. Lucas yelled again, "Ethan, get out of there. We're getting overwhelmed." Ethan sprinted towards his jet, the child secure in his grasp. He launched into the sky, the enemy ships closing in fast. Vex's eyes never left Ethan's ship as it vanished into the distance. Back on the ground, Vex's instincts kicked in. She knew every detail about this human, his ship's signature, his squadron's call signs, his bravery in the face of danger. She vowed to find him, to repay the debt of honor she felt her family owed him. The child's small hand slipped into hers, and Vex's determination hardened into steel. The human pilot, Ethan Brooks, had no idea what he'd just gotten himself into. As he flew back to base, the adrenaline began to wear off, and he felt a strange sense of unease. He glanced down at the child, who was staring up at him with wide, curious eyes. Ethan smiled, feeling a pang of wonder. Who was this little one, and what would happen to her now? The child's gaze drifted to the cockpit window, and she whispered, "Ava Lithies." Ethan didn't understand the words, but he sensed a deep sadness behind them. He wrapped his jacket around her small frame, trying to comfort her. As the base came into view, Ethan knew his life was about to change in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The engines roared as Ethan landed the jet, and the child looked up at him with a hint of fear. Ethan reassured her, "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." But as they stepped out onto the tarmac, Ethan realized he had no idea what to do with a Zeridian child. The little girl's eyes locked onto his, and Ethan felt an inexplicable sense of responsibility wash over him. Little did he know, Vexa was already tracking him, her eyes fixed on the human who'd saved her child's life. The hunt had begun, and Ethan S. world was about to collide with the Zeridian Empire S in ways he never could have imagined. Vex's eyes never left the human pilot's image on her view screen. Ethan Brooks, a name she would never forget. She replayed the footage of him shielding her child, Lyra, from the blast, and her determination grew. This human would be repaid no matter the cost. On Earth, Ethan struggled to find a way to return Lyra to her people. The military was wary of the Zeridian Empire, and diplomatic channels were strained. Ethan's commanding officer, Colonel Jenkins, called him into his office, concern etched on his face. "Ethan, we've got a situation. Zeridians are requesting a meeting, and they specifically asked for you." Ethan's instincts told him this was no ordinary meeting. "What's the agenda, sir?" he asked. Jenkins shook his head. "We're not sure, but we suspect it's about the child." "You've got a reputation for being a hero, Ethan, but this could be a trap." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. He knew the risks, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Lyra's fate was tied to his. At the meeting, Vexa stood tall, her presence commanding attention. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine as she approached him. "Ethan Brooks," she said, her voice low and measured. "You saved my child's life. For that, I am in your debt." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "No debt, ma'am. I just did what anyone would do." Vex's eyes narrowed, and Ethan sensed a deep intelligence behind them. "You would be surprised what humans would do, Ethan Brooks. But I will repay this debt. Come with me, and I will show you the gratitude of the Zeridian Empire." Ethan hesitated, unsure what to make of Vex's offer. Part of him wanted to refuse, to return to his normal life. But another part, the part that had shielded Lyra from harm, wanted to see this through. "What's in it for you?" he asked, trying to gauge Vex's intentions. Vex's expression softened, and for a moment, Ethan glimpsed something almost human behind her eyes. My child's life is precious to me. I will do whatever it takes to repay the debt. As Ethan weighed his options, Lyra's small voice echoed in his mind. Ava Lithes. He looked at Vexa and saw the same desperation in her eyes. Something about this felt right. Okay, he said finally. I'll come with you. Vex's face lit up with a fierce gratitude. Then let us begin, Ethan Brooks. The Zeridian Empire awaits. The journey to the Zeridian Empire was long and arduous. Ethan marveled at the alien technology and culture, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a trap. Vexa watched him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable, but Lyra's small hand in hers seemed to be the only thing that kept her grounded. As they approached the Empire's capital planet, Ethan's awe gave way to trepidation. What would the Zeridian Empire's gratitude look like? Would it be worth the risk he'd taken? The answers, much like the Empire itself, remained shrouded in mystery. But one thing was certain. Ethan's life was about to change forever. The Zeridian Empire's capital planet loomed before them, a sprawling metropolis of towering spires and crystalline architecture. Ethan's senses were overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of an alien world. Vexa led him through the bustling streets, Lyra skipping alongside, chattering excitedly in her native language. As they reached the Imperial Palace, Ethan felt a sense of trepidation. The building pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and the air seemed to vibrate with power. Vexa guided him through the labyrinthine corridors, introducing him to various high-ranking officials and dignitaries. Each one greeted Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The throne room was a cavernous space filled with Zeridian nobles and advisors. Vexa stood before them, her voice ringing out as she recounted Ethan's bravery. The assembly listened intently, their faces a mask of stoicism. When Vexa finished speaking, the room fell silent. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows. He was an elderly Zeridian, his skin faded to a pale blue, and his eyes clouded with age. Vexa, matriarch of the Lithes clan, he said, his voice dripping with wisdom. You bring this human before us, seeking to repay a debt. But what of the risks? What of the implications? Vexa stood tall, her voice unwavering. The human, Ethan Brooks, saved my child's life. I will not forget this debt. I propose that he be granted the status of honored guest, and that we show him the gratitude of the Zeridian Empire. The elderly Zeridian nodded thoughtfully. Very well, Vexa. We will honor your request. But be warned, human. Our gratitude may come with... conditions. Ethan's instincts told him that he was walking a tightrope. He nodded, trying to appear confident. I'm willing to take that risk. The elderly Zeridian smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. Then let us begin. Tonight we feast in your honor, Ethan Brooks. Tomorrow we discuss the terms of our gratitude. The feast was a lavish affair, with exotic dishes and strange pungent aromas. Ethan struggled to navigate the complex etiquette, but Vex's guidance helped him avoid major faux pas. Lyra giggled and played, enjoying the festivities with an abandon that was infectious. As the night wore on, Ethan began to relax, feeling a sense of belonging he hadn't expected. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. Ethan caught glimpses of Zeridian nobles whispering among themselves, their eyes flicking towards him with suspicion. Vex's advisors seemed equally divided, some urging caution, others advocating for a more radical approach. As the feast drew to a close, Vexa leaned in close. Ethan, be careful. Not everyone shares my views. There are those who would seek to use you for their own purposes. Ethan's instincts told him that Vexa was telling the truth. He nodded, his mind racing with the implications. Little did he know, the true test was only just beginning. The next morning, Ethan met with Vexa and her advisors to discuss the terms of the Zeridian Empire's gratitude. The room was filled with a sense of anticipation, but also unease. Vexa stood at the head of the table, her eyes locked on Ethan. We propose a formal agreement, Ethan Brooks. In exchange for your bravery, we offer you a place of honor within our empire. You will be granted access to our technology, our knowledge, and our protection. Ethan hesitated, unsure of what to make of the offer. What do you mean by protection? Vex's advisor, A tall, imposing figure named Kale spoke up. The human's presence on our world will not go unnoticed. There are those who would seek to harm him, to use him as leverage against us. But with our protection, he will be safe. Ethan's mind was racing. He was unsure if he was ready to commit to this level of involvement with the Zeridian Empire. What about my own people? He asked. Will they be safe? Vex's expression turned serious. We'll do everything in our power to ensure their safety, but we cannot guarantee it. The human's world is complicated. As the negotiations continued, Ethan began to realize that the Zeridian Empire's gratitude came with strings attached. He would be expected to act as a liaison between the two worlds, to help facilitate trade and diplomacy. But he would also be putting himself at risk, becoming a target for those who opposed the Empire's interests. Despite his reservations, Ethan felt a sense of duty to Vexa and Lyra. He had saved Lyra's life, and now he felt responsible for seeing this through. Okay, he said finally, I'll do it. I'll be your liaison. Vex's face lit up with gratitude, and Lyra threw her arms around Ethan's waist. But not everyone in the room was pleased with the agreement. Kel's expression turned cold, and he spoke up. I do not think this is wise, Vexa. The human's loyalty is to his own people, not to us. Vex's eyes flashed with anger, but she kept her composure. We will make this work, Kale. The human has proven himself to be honorable. I trust him. As the meeting adjourned, Ethan felt a sense of trepidation. He knew that he was walking into a complex web of intrigue and politics, but he was determined to see this through, to make a difference in the relationship between humans and Zeridians. Little did he know the real challenges were only just beginning. As he left the meeting room, Lyra's small hand slipped into his. Ava Lithius, she said, looking up at him with big round eyes. Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of connection to this little girl and her family. He knew that he would do everything in his power to protect them, no matter what lay ahead. The days passed, and Ethan settled into his new role as liaison between humans and Zeridians. He worked tirelessly to build bridges between the two worlds, using his unique position to facilitate trade and diplomacy. Vexa and Lyra became like family to him, and he grew to appreciate the complexities of Zeridian culture. But not everyone was pleased with the new arrangement. Kale and his faction continued to oppose Ethan's presence, whispering among themselves about the risks of trusting a human. Ethan sensed the tension, but Vexa seemed confident in her ability to manage the situation. One day, a group of human dignitaries arrived on the Zeridian capital planet, seeking to negotiate a formal treaty between the two worlds. Ethan played a key role in the negotiations, using his knowledge of both cultures to help find common ground. As the talks progressed, Ethan began to realize that the Zeridian Empire was not a monolith. There were factions within the Empire that opposed the treaty, just as there were factions on the human side. The negotiations were delicate, with both sides pushing for concessions. Vexa stood firm, advocating for a strong alliance between the two worlds. Ethan admired her strength and conviction, even as he struggled to navigate the complex web of interests. Lyra, sensing the tension, clung to Ethan's hand, her big eyes watching the proceedings with curiosity. In the end, the treaty was signed, marking a major breakthrough in human-Zeridian relations. Ethan felt a sense of pride and accomplishment, knowing that he had played a key role in bringing the two worlds together. As the celebrations began, Vexa approached him, a smile on her face. Ethan Brooks, you have proven yourself to be a true friend to the Zeridian Empire. I am in your debt, once again. Ethan shook his head, feeling a sense of humility. You don't owe me anything, Vexa. We've both gained from this. Lyra tugged on his hand, looking up at him with shining eyes. Ava Lithies, she said, her voice filled with happiness. Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of belonging. He knew that he had found a new family among the Zeridians, and that their bond would last a lifetime. As the night wore on, Ethan gazed out at the stars, feeling a sense of wonder. He had never imagined that saving a Zeridian child's life would lead to this. A new world, new friends, and a new sense of purpose. The universe was full of surprises, and Ethan was grateful for the journey that had brought him to this place.